stress too much about it, you really will just make it work.
Thank you for that. That's really cool. Um, were you ever afraid of like job security at the same time? And were you like, oh, I don't know, are they gonna catch me? Am I gonna get found out? What am I gonna do?
No, but my mom is.
Wait, why? Well, why not? Well, why? Well,
I think maybe I'm just crazy, but I just think everything will work out the way that it will. Like, I'm just so confident that this is what I need to be doing. And I see the impact in my students, and
mm,
that outweighs so much the fear of losing a job. There are other jobs
yeah,
out there, but for a student, we're
yeah,
catching them at important times in their life
yeah.
where they really need these types of opportunities. But again, my mom is so stressed out.
Okay, tell us about Career Dreams. Who do you serve? What is your mission?
Definitely. So we work with community centers, schools, prisons, reentry centers, and detention centers. We work with students, really large group of age ranges from kindergarten through 12th grade, and we also serve adults. We work with communities that are just historically disenfranchised, and really the work that we're doing is number one, empowering our students not just to be technologists, but also change makers and activists for their communities. And number two, we're exposing our students to all of the various roles that exist within a technology company. So, not just a
Nice.
software developer, but project and product managers, designers, UX researchers, marketing, and sales. So, the way that our program works is that we have different tracks. So there's app development, web development, data science and analytics, and now fintech is our newest program. So students think about, okay, these are the amazing assets that I have in my community. They do some asset mapping, but they also think, okay, these are also problems that I experience and others in my community experience as well. And so they go through the design thinking process and they come up with an idea for something they can build that helps address or help solve that specific problem. And then we just teach them everything they need to know in order to make that idea into a reality, down to actually pitching that idea or that product, marketing it, branding it. And then we have really fun celebratory showcases.
I love that. Do you have the periodic programming and what's the period length that you offer?
Yeah, so most of our programs are 1 semester long, but we also have full academic year programs. And then we do summer intensive programs that run several days of the week throughout the summer.
Right. And you mentioned you're a nonprofit. How does your partnership or your clientele, how does like what is it like a custom price range? And I'm trying to get to how do you engage financially with all these different entities that you have available?
Yes, so our programs are free for all of our students and partners. So they're pretty expensive programs. We really rely on individual donors, grants, and especially tech companies as sponsors because we are a pipeline of future diverse tech employees. I think that tech companies really do have an incentive to donate to us and organizations like us that are really building the next generation of what their workforce looks like.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's really cool that you can offer this for free.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. The other thing that we do that not a lot of people know is that stipends for these types of programs are really important for students as well. So, for most of our programs, students do get paid for being a part of the program. And a lot of this is due to the fact that without payment, that's a huge barrier for students who have to take care of their families, themselves, and would otherwise have to get a part-time job. So that's just an added layer on top of our program.
Love that. So any individual can sign up, or do you specifically partner with institutions at this point?
Right now, we're partnering with institutions, and then the exciting thing that we're creating is a start a club model, so that we don't have to hire every instructor, but anyone who wants to start their own Code Your Dreams Club, whether it's at their school, their community center, a local prison, they're able to actually get all the onboarding and training in order to create and sustain that program.
Nice. Nice. As a woman in business, what was the decision between that you made between creating a non-for-profit or a for-profit organization? And was there any debate that you had for yourself about which way to go?
Yeah, I think a lot of times women are naturally drawn towards nonprofit. I know that I personally was, and I've always had like a weird relationship with money where I felt like I need to be very frugal and like everything else like should be used for some sort of impact. And so I kind of just have lived that way, which made choosing a nonprofit very easy. But then COVID happened, which for Code Your Dreams was very, very challenging. We had
Mm,
much higher program costs than in non COVID times, and those costs came like within a day. Um, so I wasn't able to, as a nonprofit, say, oh, we'll just get a ton more individual donors, or oh, we'll just get twice the number of grants. That wasn't really possible. So what I had to do was really think creatively about how can I create a more sustainable revenue model. So I actually did create a for-profit company during the pandemic to help fill the gap for the nonprofit. And so now having both a nonprofit and a for-profit, it's been just incredibly interesting seeing the pros and cons on both sides.
Tell me a little bit about those pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, one is just fundraising. Somehow fundraising is so much easier for a for-profit. I mean, when you think of how many dollars are in the world of VC and investment, those dollars aren't going to nonprofits because the return isn't dollars for you, the return is impact. So I found that when I do talk to people, for the most part, even though I lead with Code Your Dreams, people are naturally gravitate more towards being interested in supporting the for profit. Um, so that can be just one thing to think about if you're starting something, but I would never want to tell anyone not to start a nonprofit.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the for-profit branch? Is it called the same, Code Your Dreams?
So, the story behind it, it's called Coder Heroes, where coding is a
Yeah,
superpower.
yeah.
So when COVID happened, we saw these huge budget needs. And so on LinkedIn, every single day, I had at least 10 people in my LinkedIn messages saying these were like Google execs, Facebook execs, Apple execs messaging me. Hi, Bri. Things are crazy. My kids are driving me crazy. Any way that you can fit my kids into your Coach Your Dreams program? Day after day after day, I'm getting so frustrated thinking you are like the top 1%. This is a nonprofit. We're serving completely different audience. But then what I realized was, wow, there's a huge market for these for-profit programs. So that's when I started Coder Heroes. I developed a new program where kind of like Tom's Shoes, where you buy a shoe, give a shoe. This was you buy a class, it gives a class back to the nonprofit. And so that just completely filled the gap for our budget needs. And then it dawned on me like, wow, this actually is, can be a sustainable business and a sustainable revenue model to not just fill the gap during COVID, but really help us expand.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That is amazing. And congratulations on like being able to identify that need and like just like jumping on it and getting it done.
Thank you. I can't, it felt like it was just so fast. And then I knew this was a real need that I was solving because within 2 weeks of starting the business, I had Forbes and the Chicago Tribune that wanted to write about it. So I was like, okay, I was right. This is important.
That is so cool, Bri. I'm so excited to hear that. And uh it is a real need. It is a real need for many reasons for like and one of the main reasons is I do have three children and I do think like everybody is in tech nowadays in some sort of way, right? And so I'm super excited for you to get that education out to not only disenfranchised, well, historically disenfranchised communities, but also people who just want to pay for it and need it and want to learn more about tech and can contribute to the tech ecosystem in their own way. So that's really, really cool.
Thank you. We'll have to talk about your kids too and see if any of them are within our age ranges.
That would be awesome. Earlier you mentioned you're so passionate about this that you just continuously talk about the state of education and equity or equality. I forget which word you mentioned. I think it was equity. What is the state of education and equity, and what's going on in that space?
Yeah, that's a really large question that I'll narrow
Yeah,
down to just my
tackle
subject
it.
matter,
Yeah, tackle it
which
however you
really
want. Yes.
yeah, computer science education. So it really looks different, neighborhood by neighborhood, totally around the globe. So in Chicago, something interesting that the city did was, I believe it was a study by the CME. They looked at, so similar to food deserts, there are also computer science deserts. So these are neighborhoods where students don't have access to computer science opportunities, specifically during out of school time. And so they created a map of Chicago showing all of the neighborhoods that don't have access to computer science. So you can look at one school that might be, on the north side. They might have a robotics club and all of these computer labs and just a ton of different resources. And then on the other side of the city, or even close in another neighborhood, you might have a school where they don't have enough computers for students. They don't have a robotics club. They don't have coding classes. So it really is an equity issue looking at who has access to resources and who doesn't. So I think it's becoming more and more important, just based on what the workforce requirements are for people nowadays, for really everyone to have access to computer science, ideally from a young age. Similar to math and science, you want students to learn those subjects as early as possible. I really think we need to add computer science or at least computational thinking to the mix there too, because it's just not fair that some students are getting such a leg up compared to other students, especially for these very high paying but also very sustainable jobs.
Yeah, high paying, sustainable, far reaching, low investment, right? Because like as long as you have the education, companies will send you the equipment, right? So it's not like you need to invest in tooling personally. And yeah, that makes tons of sense. What are you most excited about based on trends that you've seen about equity in the computer science education field?
I think something that I'm most excited about is the disruption to higher education and just seeing more and more non-traditional pathways, and really the tech companies like Google and Apple that are making investments into non-traditional pathways to tech. Um, so, for example, boot camps and online learning, our programs. I think just giving students pathways that don't have to just be a 4 year college institution, to me, that's really exciting.
That's awesome. That is something that I feel very strongly about, because if as a person who is an immigrant in this country and did not have much backing or financial resources coming in, if I knew I didn't have to get a college degree and go through a 16-week boot camp, a semester programming like you the ones you're offering, and get out with a full-time job that can, comfortably sustain a lifestyle, I think I would have done that hands down. But I'm still, and especially for those people who do not have the time to wait 4 years before getting a full-time job, they have family, like you said, that have neighbor, that they have their parents, or the community um that they need to help the community or sustain the community, or they have no investments, right, from their parents. I had to pay for my whole college as an immigrant here in the States. And so I would have, loved to save that money and potentially invest it in other places. Um, I wonder, like, what is the difference between a 4 year college degree and one of these type of programs, coming out of that, graduating from those? Like, how does one that is trying to pick one or the other makes that decision?
It's a
Beyond, I guess,
really
beyond the financial, like, resources, right?
Definitely. It's a really hard decision that I wouldn't, make a blanket recommendation. I think
Yeah.
it's definitely person for person. But I think, I also went to a 4 year college, and I also am constantly privileged and am benefiting from going to that 4 year college. So I definitely don't want to say that, there's anything wrong about 4 year colleges. I think for me, it's really just access being the issue, that um, something like only 3%, a very low percent of people do in the world have privilege to going to a 4 year college, and just the wealth of like connections and resources and network and like the prestige that you get just from going to a 4 year college. I do believe that if it was free for, um, doesn't need to be free for everyone because a lot of people can pay for college. But if there was just giving people access to that who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity, that's what I think is important. So if a person is deciding between, 4 year college and something else like a boot camp, I would talk to people who are in both of those spaces, who you kind of identify with, and just really see what their experiences are. Talk to people who are in different parts of the process, people who are in college or in the boot camp, but also people who are a year out, 2 years out, 5, 10 years out, to really understand, what might my experience look like at one place versus the other.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Are you aware of any difference in salary coming out of either, or do you know what's, if, a person who goes through a programming like yours or a boot camp, what is the average salary that they may get out of that?
So things are definitely changing. There used to be more of a stigma against people who have non traditional pathways. It used to
Mm.
be, if you are a computer science major at a reputable 4 year college, you are well higher looked at than someone who went to a boot camp. Things are changing because tech companies are realizing that they have an issue. They have a hiring issue, they have a DEI issue. And so, like, um, wanting to prioritize one versus another is really just prioritizing privilege and not prioritizing talent or what someone's ceiling is. So I think more and more, I don't know any of the stats, but I think we're going to see it. I hope that we're going to see both of those pathways equalizing. And I hope people will start looking at, both types of people in the same kind of light. Personally, I a lot of times prefer hiring people from boot camp. I think they have a lot of grit. I think they have a lot of interesting experiences that they're able to apply,
Yeah,
and they're great learners. So I don't know if anyone out there is not hiring from boot camps. I think you should.
absolutely. Thanks for that. Um, you know, one of the things that I am is like a vision person, and so I always thinking about what the future could look like um, for you, for your companies, and or computer science education and equity. Where do you think we are headed, and what is your vision for the future?
Definitely. So, my vision for Code Your Dreams is that it's going to be our communities that are building tech that our communities are using. To me, it is so scary that such a tiny percentage of people are the ones who are building technology that we're using every day that are affecting all parts of our lives. I especially look at our kids growing up, and I'm just so terrified by the influences that they have from technology. And so, really, my vision is that, we're going to equip everyone with the resources to solve problems that they see with technology so they can be the ones who have control over what the tech looks like that are really running our lives. Um, on the side of Coder Heroes, really the vision there is also has to do with accessibility. The programs that we do are different at Coder Heroes. We do a lot of creative coding activities. Things like I created something called Coder Yoga, which is the combination of coding and yoga. So we bring a lot of body movement and emotions and feelings and imagination and play into coding concepts and design concepts. And so, really, my vision there is that any child sees themselves as a coder because it's not going to be a coder anymore. It's just a builder or a maker or a creator, and that anyone, no matter who they are, how they identify, or their background, that they also have the tools to take on that type of creator role.
I love that. One, um, and thanks you so much for answering that. That's such a beautiful vision for your both of your companies, and how creative that yoga coding mix is. I was thinking I would like to attend one because I'm interested to see what that feels like. One last question for you is some of your tools for success as a woman in tech, woman leading, a businesswoman, leading two companies. Being a very successful, what are some of your leadership go-tos, tools, go-tos that you recommend?
Yeah, so really people just having a good community. So one is having mentors. I now think a lot about how I'm thinking and what my mental space is. And I think that mentors can have a huge impact on the mindset that you have. Even, yesterday I was feeling a little bit down, a little bit, uh, I don't know, frustrated with the startup space, and there were, great female founders who really made me feel like just keep going. You have this. You're doing great. So I think there's a lot of power in mentorship, but also there's power in people who are at the same stage as you are. So I think have people at your level, have people above you, also mentor people as well, because you'll just learn so much and you'll be so invigorated by all of those types of energies.
I love that. Thank you so much. Bri, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been my pleasure to have you over. I love having this conversation about your founder journey. I wish you the utmost success and everything you want. And please let the audience know where they can find you and where they can find Code Your Dreams.
Definitely. Well, I am always on LinkedIn, so definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I go by Bri, but my name on LinkedIn is Brienne Kaplan. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Code with Bri. And I'm always happy to chat and connect. Code Your Dreams also has their own handles. It's Code Your Dreams, except on Twitter because someone else has Code Your Dreams. So it is We Code Dreams on Twitter.
Nice. Well said. Thank you so much for coming. It's been my pleasure. I hope you come back soon.
Thank you so much.